We turn now to our very first guest. Our guest wants to make a change in the world of politics. He came to New York on a travel visa, stayed and lived undocumented for several years. Once receiving permanent residence, he pursued a path to public service. And when he joined the police department for 25 years of service with the New York City Police Department, and then he also observed the impact of gun violence and the need for sensible gun laws, and the impact of an economy that does not work for everyone. Joining me now to share his point of view on this matter, I'm joined also by Bronx Borough candidate Sammy Ravelo. And Sammy, good to have you here on the Social Justice Forums.
Thank you for having me, Daren. For me, it's a pleasure. Just one tidbit. After I graduated from high school, from Walton High School in the Bronx, I joined the military. I served in the U.S. Navy for 4 years, and I fought in the first Gulf War.
Wow. Well, thank you for your service. A true serviceman. And listen, let's talk about this here. You come in, you served in the U.S. military, but you were undocumented for a moment. And talk us through that time of your life when you were undocumented and what brought you here.
Yeah, well, my mom brought me here, and through no fault of my own, personally, she didn't send me back. I came from the Dominican Republic. It was rough. You're a 16-year-old undocumented. Once you graduate high school, you have one of very few things that you were able to do. I decided that I wanted to wash cars and work in a bodega or work in the supermarket. In the late '80s, we were in the middle of a crack epidemic. I had friends that were up to no good, let's put it this way. But I decided to keep a straight and narrow. That's because of my mom. She's my hero. And I waited until I got my documents, my papers, if you will, like that we call it. And once I received them, I went to Fordham Road in Grand Concourse and joined the U.S. military. And the rest is history. I decided to come back to the Bronx after my service. I actually was offered a very good job in California. And, I turned it down because I'm an East Coast guy, and I wanted to come back. I came back, went to Bronx Community College, and then I joined the NYPD.
How hard was it for you to go through that process of paperwork? I mean, we know what the immigration process is right now. Compare what it was then to what it is now.
Well, what I hear is that it's a lot harder now than it was when I was undocumented in the late 80s. Obviously, it was a different era back then. I'm going back almost 35 years ago, but it's a lot harder now. So it's more involved, and it involves obviously a Republican Party that is totally anti-immigrant. At the time, when I was going through my situation, most of the Republicans, and a lot of people probably forget that there was the Ronald Reagan gave amnesty to 11 million immigrants at the time, or undocumented immigrants. So it was a lot different than it was back then than it was now, for sure.
Yeah. Talk to me about making that decision to go to the military, because obviously that was a huge decision. And right off the bat, I mean, you got your paperwork and then boom, you go to the military. Somebody would say, well, why not take your paperwork and hang around here a little bit more? What was your decision behind that?
Well, let's put it in perspective. I love the United States of America. I love the fact that I was here, and then I'm finally getting the chance to live the American dream openly. I was under the shadows back then, and I wanted to pay back, and that was the only thing that I could think of. A lot of my friends said, "Oh, well, you probably just needed the job." No, I actually wanted to serve in the military, and what better way for me to be part of that, of the beginning of the American dream, than serving this country, who is now my country, and that's what I tell all the young folks. So yeah, I wanted to serve. Did not know that I was going to end up in a war, but I'm happy I did, and I'm happy that I came back to tell my story.
Yeah, again, thank you for your service. Serving in the Gulf War, give us that experience of what life was like as a United States soldier serving in the Gulf War, and certainly, as you said, it wasn't something that you anticipated.
Well, it was surreal at the time. There was a sense of pride. There was a sense, we were all obviously afraid. We didn't know how long this war was going to last. But it was a sense of righteousness, because that, it was just not the United States, going at it alone. A lot of people don't remember. There were another 75 countries that joined the United States in liberating Kuwait. Thank God that it was a very quick war. We got the job done, I'm here to tell, like I said, tell my story.
Yeah. Well, now that you can tell the story, you can tell the story of how you transitioned from the Gulf War to the New York City Police Department. After serving in the military, you made the decision that you wanted to come over and really work in law enforcement. Give us that take. Were you always in the law enforcement mindset, or was there something that prompted you?
No. I actually did not like the police, to be honest with you. You know, when I was a young man, like all of us, you know, because there's a lot of it is because of misconception, and two, sometimes we did not grow up thinking that we were able to become cops. You know, I remember as a young kid, all the cops were white. You know, so we didn't. In my head, you know, I didn't see any police officer that looked like me. But you know, in between the time that I was in the military and the time that I get back, my cousin had joined the police department. He gave me an application. I filled it out, but I totally forgot about it. I enrolled in Bronx Community College, where I got involved in student government there. I became a student senator. One of my mentors is the late Roscoe Brown. He was Tuskegee Airman, and you know, he opened his doors a lot to me. You know, he saw something in me. I don't know what, to be honest with you. You know, that got me involved. So we made a few changes within the administration, then I joined the police department. They came calling. I said, you know what, I need a job, and I had that sense of also service. So I joined the police department, not knowing that I was going to end up doing 25 years.
Yeah. Share with me a little bit about where we are right now today as a nation, and you know, what's going on nationally is the same thing that's going on locally. As the nation, and you hear a lot of people talking about actually defund the police. You've been in the police department 25 years, retired. When you hear defund the police, what comes to mind for you, and what are your thoughts?
Okay, that's a great question, Daren. It worries me. What happens is this: there's a movement, you know, and I compartmentalize this from the police movement. You know, obviously there are issues with a lot of police departments. I've been very vocal about backing the NYPD and the job that the NYPD has done, because it's not the same police department that it was when I joined. It has changed throughout those 25 years. I know they've changed for the better. And I am obviously against defund the police, against defunding the NYPD. Because what happens when we do that, and we take funds, we take policing away from our communities, the people that suffer are us, kids that look like me and you, Daren. And I constantly tell people, no, we need a fully funded police where, you know, whether it's we got to give more training for de-escalation to some of our officers, whether we want to put more community affairs officers or neighborhood coordinating officers, but taking police away and taking that police presence from our neighborhoods without addressing what we're going to do with our youth is dangerous. And I've been proven right. Right now, violent crimes are up 276% in our neighborhoods. You know, every time a young man gets shot and died, we kind of think about the criminal as opposed to the victims that are left behind by this shooting. So I think that, you know, some of the things that we need to do is, before we start removing our police officers from the police, let's make sure that we find things for our youth to do. Let's keep crime under control. Right now, I see violent crimes going up even more.
Okay,
155 kids
right.
have been shot year to date in the Bronx, as opposed to only 55 last year.
So let me cut in and ask the question here. You make a valid argument that, you know, crime needs to be attended to. But could there be an argument to be made to say, listen, let's put some more money towards resources so that way we don't have to have a lot of officers on the street to do and take care of this crime? Because if you answer some of the root causes, there can be some root results.
Absolutely. And like I said, people, you know, and again, I say, when we're talking about money, no, not necessarily more cops. You know, we can probably have less cops where they're not needed, but removing them without having, you know, without putting money, without fixing what are we going to do with the money that we just took away from the police department, what are we going to do then? It's a problem. And you see it right now. Right now, the movement was, let's take $1 billion away from the police department let's shorten the force by attrition by 3,000 cops. And the result is kids have gotten hurt. It's just a fact. I'm not just me making it up. A lot of it has to do with there's not enough police presence. Now, you're absolutely right. I believe that during the Bloomberg years, when he decided to cut a lot of the programs for our youth, when crime was low, I don't know why he decided to do that. It plays a big role. I 100% agree with you. But defunding the police prior to let's find what our kids what can they do. It was a big error. Right now, we're producing more criminals and who are committing real crimes against our people. They're not committing the crime somewhere else. They're doing it in our neighborhoods. I walk around. I probably am the only candidate walking around having no problems going into NYCHA buildings and talking to folks out there. And I was in the Edenwald houses last night, and they tell you, we don't want less police. We don't mind the police. What a lot of people don't like what the police does when it comes to heavy-handed tactics, or what they hear in the news that some police officer in Jacksonville, Florida, or some police officer in Ohio. And I tell them, listen, that's the news. That's not here, the NYPD. And our elected officials do a disservice when they compare incidents that happen outside New York, all right, and they put the NYPD in the middle of that. And that's what I've been vocal about. Don't do that, because some cop over in Minnesota did something wrong. Don't try to hurt the police officers here in New York, because the people that are going to end up suffering are people that look like.
Yeah. Well, a lot of New Yorkers, and I mean, let me ask the question, do you get the people's pain? When you talk about, you use the word, the people who are the most victims will be the youth, but then the youth are also the ones who are the most targeted sometimes. And we can talk about stop and frisk, and people thought about stop and frisk was a great idea. But in the end, we all found out that stop and frisk ultimately became a bust. But in the parts of young people, it's like it did nothing more but made us feel more targeted, and many times unwarranted. I'll ask the question, do you feel as though you get the sense of what people are angry about and why they're angry?
Absolutely. And I was in a radio interview or a Facebook Live last night with Assemblyman Al Tabor, and we specifically spoke about a stop, question, and frisk. So I'm going to tell you what stop, question, and frisk did. It was a good tool for doing investigations. William Bratton brought it. I was a part of the police department. It was great for investigating crime and solving cases. What happened was that they, instead of using it and keep using it as an investigative tool, they use it as an enforcement tool, and that was wrong. And I was very vocal about it 10 years ago when I was still a police officer. When I was a sergeant in the NYPD, I was very vocal about it, where I said that this is wrong. We cannot just use stop, question, and frisk in order to keep as an enforcement tool. What the police department used to do, and I'm gonna unveil it here right now, is that they used to tell a young cop, and cops hated doing this, by the way. They used to tell a cop, listen, you're gonna go out, we're gonna give you overtime, we're gonna put you in a corner, but you're gonna have to come with 10 criminal court summonses, 10 stop, question, and frisk, and 10 moving violations. You're forcing a young cop to actually conduct performance when it wasn't even warranted. So I totally agree, and I feel people's pain. My mother was one of those that got stopped one day. I mean, come on, but it stopped. The lawsuit proved that the police department was wrong. They were blind into believing. And I tell you, the commissioner right now was one of those authors of Stop, Question, and Frisk, Commissioner Shea. A lot of people don't talk about that. But at the end of the day, we got it right. And we were, whether it was forced by the courts, but we got it right. But, are we now going to push back and say, police department, don't do anything. Don't stop, or even are the guys that are actually committing real crimes. I don't know if we really want to do that. At the end of the day, I think Assemblyman Arteo kind of agreed that, listen, sometimes we just have to let things happen the way they should. We need our police officers at the end of the day.
Well, let me move on to another topic that's of your heart. I know that you're running for Bronx Borough President. We want to give you a few minutes to have the opportunity to share why is it that you've decided to seek the seat of Bronx Borough President.
Okay, yes, same thing. The Bronx is the site of, or we've been the poorest borough for the last 50 years. Our current politicians, they keep telling us that, it's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. We have politicians that have been there 8, 12 years, and they keep on telling us the same thing. The same politicians are looking for another seat. It's like a merry-go-round that's happening in the Bronx. So me personally, I saw the landscape of politics is changing in the Bronx. The narrative is that you need experience to be Bronx Borough President, but in reality, no. What you need is you need to be a Bronxite that wants to be a voice for those in the Bronx, that's not tied to any political machines. And I believe that I'm the best candidate. I actually have a record of working for 25 years in the Bronx, in direct contact with the community. And I know what the community needs are. I'm going to give you one tidbit. You asked about the police department. In 25 years, I'd never received a civilian complaint while working with the police because I knew how to treat people with respect, and I'm very proud of that. And that's what the Bronx needs. The Bronx needs an advocate that has the credibility, and I think I'm the best suited. I'm the best person suited for that.
How do you deal with the issue of unemployment? I mean, that's huge and heavy out here in the borough of the Bronx. How do you tackle that?
Well, what we could do, since the reality is that Bronx Borough presidents don't have any legislative powers, but what I'm planning to do is partner up with a city council, and what we need to push is for grants and low interest loans for our businesses. If you walk down Fordham Road, you walk down 3rd Avenue, you walk down Burnside, you walk down Morris Park Avenue, where I'm going to be opening my offices this Saturday, people use these stores that are closed. And we need to start, moving capital for people that want to take the risk and start a business and be able to do that. And we're going to be able to do it through grants, and we're going to be able to do it through low interest loans. And when I talk low interest, I'm talking about 0.5%, 1%, where people don't feel the burden of having to pay high interest on these loans. Because the people that want to take risks and put their money into a business, we want to give them that opportunity.
Talk to us about the health. We know that health is a huge issue here. The Bronx, number 62 out of 62 counties. How do we improve the health situation here in the borough?
Well, it's going to have to be an all of the above strategy. We definitely have to do something about the Cross Bronx and the pollution that's creating. And my son, I live close to the Cross Bronx, and my son is asthmatic, and he grew up as an asthmatic kid. And it's one of those that we have to, through action and also through education. I want to expand on Michelle Obama's initiative of providing healthy meals to our kids and start teaching at grade level schools the importance of eating right and having a healthy living, healthy environment. And obviously, I'm waiting to see what Joe Biden is going to do with Obamacare, what we popularly call Obamacare. Hopefully, it gets expanded to the rest of the population, and through our health system, also provide that education that we'll need in order to live, healthy lifestyles.
Yeah. I know one of the things that you're proposing, free CUNY. Talk to me about your thoughts about having a free CUNY system.
Yeah, great. Well, as the only CUNY graduate, very proud of that in the race. Yeah, I'm not talking state and private schools. They can charge. I believe that education, especially here in the city, is important, and it's a right for every citizen to educate. And we have to, because a country that does not educate their citizens is doomed to fail sooner or later. And the people that are less educated are, folks, and I keep saying it, folks that look like me, that are African American and Latinos. And I believe that a lot of people do not attend school, whether it's trade school or CUNY schools, because the small amount of money that they have to pay, even that they can't afford. So I'm looking to see if I can partner up with either state and local legislators to see how we can provide free education for our citizens.
Yeah. So I want to ask a little bit more about the issue of social justice before we get out of here. You get one final take to tell our viewers, what does social justice mean to you?
Social justice means that, all right, our founding documents said in order for us to build a more perfect union, all right, we're not going to be a more perfect union until everyone is educated. Everyone has access to education. We're not going to be a more perfect union if we don't curb our homelessness that we have here in America. We're not going to be a more perfect union until we have our citizens are healthy. We're not going to be a more perfect union until our citizens are safe. Social justice, that's what social justice means. Equity among everybody. Doesn't matter if you're white, black, brown, if you're a member of the LGBTQ community. We all have the right to the American dream, and that's what social justice means to me.
All righty. Sammy Ravelo, we got to leave it there, but thank you so much for being with us here on the Social Justice Forums. Appreciate your time and certainly look forward to having you back.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
All righty. Sammy Ravelo, our guest here on the Social Justice Forums. I do want you to stay with us. We do have a little bit more show coming up. Don't go away. We've got another guest coming up right after this.